Hi, I'm Nate Savage, and welcome to this intermediate guitar lesson where we're going to cover a very important and almost magical method for navigating the fretboard called the CAGED system. Now, this is going to be great for your rhythm guitar playing and lead guitar playing, and it doesn't matter what style of music you're into, this is going to open a whole new world of fretboard coverage for you. If you're a rock guitar player who's been using the 3-note per string system to navigate the fretboard, this is going to be a great lesson for you because it's just going to supplement that and open some new doors for you and help you see the fretboard in a different light. It's going to be great for your playing. Now, at the end of this lesson, I have a jam track for you that's going to give you something fun to practice the CAGED system with, so be looking forward to that. The CAGED system is a simple way to connect a series of chord shapes up the fretboard to play all of the different shapes for one specific chord. Now, this may seem confusing to you, but the more you go through this lesson, by the end of it, you'll start to see what I'm talking about. The first step to understanding the CAGED system, or the CAGED sequence, is to just know your open chords, C-A-G-E-D. So I won't go into too much detail with this right now because if you're an intermediate guitar player, I'm sure you already know these chords. But let's just go through these open chords real quick. C, A, G, E, and D for the last one. The next step you need to get down to understand the CAGED sequence is just to realize that all those chords, those open chords that we just went over, are movable. And the best way to explain this to you is by something that you probably already know, and that's just your regular bar chords. And now, if you've been playing for any amount of time, you probably know that you can use this E shape, this open E shape, as a bar chord, right? So if I wanted to play a C bar chord using the E shape, I would come up and bar the 8th fret, right? It's a C chord using that E shape. Now you can do the same thing with your A chord too, and a lot of guitar players, if you know your bar chords, know this one too. If you wanted to play a C bar chord using the A shape, you would just use your index finger across the 3rd fret and make the rest of the shape, right? Now, probably nothing new for you. Now, you can apply that exact same concept of chord movability to your C, G, and D chords as well. So, for example, if you have your open C, you can make that into a bar chord just like you did with your E and A chords. Just move it up 2 frets and put your bar down on your 2nd fret, and you would end up with a D chord using the C shape. Same thing with your G chord. If you had just your open G shape and you moved it up 2 frets and then put your bar down on the 2nd fret, you would have an A chord using the G shape. And then finally, same thing with your D chord. If you have an open D, what you could do is apply that exact same concept. Just move it up 2 frets and then come back here. And your index finger would be like an open string now if you come play the 2nd fret of the D string. And that would be an E chord using the D shape. So what you need to do is get used to moving these shapes around like bar chords with this G, C, and D shape, right? Now, let me tell you, these shapes are pretty impractical. You'll rarely ever see anybody playing this shape. A lot of people omit the bottom 2 notes and just play the top 4 strings. But it's important that you can visualize that shape and where it comes from. Same thing for the C shape. A lot of people don't even bother with that lowest root note and just play the top 4 strings. And then for the D shape, a lot of people omit that root and just play the top 3. And just move that around. The heart of the CAGED sequence is this. You can use different chord voicings or shapes to play the same chord all the way up the fretboard using the CAGED sequence of chords. Let me show you what I mean. Start with an open C chord, and we're gonna kind of be in the key of C for the rest of this lesson. We're using a C chord, right? That's no problem. Now, what's the next chord in the CAGED sequence? C, A. So you're gonna use an A shape to play a C chord. And the way you find that is to take the root note that's highest up the fretboard and use that root note as your root note that's farthest down the fretboard as a bass for your next shape. So that root note is the farthest up the fretboard, and it will become the lowest down the fretboard for your A shape. And the key here is to visualize that C, and then visualize the A-shaped C chord. And it kind of all hinges on that root note right there. So what's the next chord in the sequence? C, A, G. That means you're going to use a G shape to play a C chord. And the same little rule applies. Take the root note that's farthest up the fretboard and use that as your lowest root note in the next shape. So you have a G shape and you're playing a C chord. And again, it's really important to visualize the next chord before you move to it, and be really aware of where all your root notes are at the same time too. The next letter in the sequence is C, A, G, E. So you're going to use an E chord shape to play a C chord. And that's the exact same concept, right? If you left off on this G, you're going to use the root note that's highest up the fretboard as your lowest root note for the next shape up. So this is just a regular C bar chord using the E shape. Again, visualize and hop between those two. And we're only using C chords right now, but this works with every chord, so it's really powerful. All right, there's only one letter left in our sequence, C, A, G, E, D. And the exact same thing applies again. You're going to want to be able to visualize the highest note up the fretboard in this E shape and use that as the lowest or root note that's farthest down the fretboard for your D shape. And that's this right here, first finger, 10th fret of the D string. And then again, you're going to want to visualize that before you move to it. So that's pretty much it for the CAGED sequence. And you may be thinking, well, that's great, but how does it apply to playing the guitar? Let me tell you right now, it applies to rhythm guitar as far as working your chords up the fretboard. It applies to lead guitar, pentatonic scales, modal scales, arpeggios, all that stuff. This is really just the tip of the iceberg. So let's just go through this CAGED sequence again in the key of C, or with a C chord, right? There's your open C, the A shape, G shape, E shape, D shape, and then you get back to your same C shape again right here. And the cool thing about this is, instead of being just stuck with an open C chord, or an E shaped bar chord, or an A shaped bar chord, you now have tons of places you can play the same chord on the guitar. To help you grasp this CAGED sequence even further, let's go over another chord real quick. Let's choose a D chord, and I'm just going to start with an open D. And that's a D shape, right? So you would start on that shape in the sequence, C, A, G, E, D. So actually we're starting at the end of the sequence. The next shape you would want is the C. Go back around to the beginning and use the C shape. And you took the highest root note right here and made it the lowest root note of that C shape. Next in the sequence is an A, so you can use an A shape to play a D chord, right? Next in the sequence is a G, so you can use a G shape to play the D chord. Again, you don't have to use all the strings to the top four if you want. Next in the sequence is an E, so an E-shaped bar chord there to play a D. And finally, we're back where we started, using the D shape to play a D chord. To help you get a handle on this CAGED sequence, I have a jam track for you. It's basically just a groove over a C major chord. And what you're going to want to do is work on shifting through these chord shapes all the way up and down the fretboard and really visualizing them before you move to them. Now, let me say this is a lot of information. If you don't quite understand this yet, that's totally fine. Go back and watch this lesson as many times as you need to for it to start clicking. Here's how you can use this jam track to work on the CAGED sequence with the C chord. This is really just the tip of the iceberg as far as what you can do with the CAGED sequence. You can use this for your chord positions all the way up and down the fretboard, your pentatonic scales, modal scales, arpeggios, just tons of stuff. The important things are that you learn to visualize the chord shapes on the fretboard before you move to them, and drill different chords in different keys all the time. You know, pick one chord a day or one chord a week and just work on really getting that one down. The guitar system contains an entire section on fretboard navigation, and the CAGED system and everything you can do with it is included there. So if you're interested in this, you might want to check that out. Thanks for watching. If you like this lesson, just like the video, or leave a comment below to let me know. I just launched a brand new guitar lesson series that you can get right now for free. Just go to guitarlessons.com/free-series, and I'll see you there.